This is your step-by-step guide to creating and editing your questionnaire on the Restore system. In this video, we will cover adding, editing and deleting projects and formatting the virtual flyers. We'll also cover adding and editing new questions to the questionnaire, including single questions and sub-questions. To make changes to the questionnaire, you must have supervisor access. Click on the Manage tile on your homepage to take you through to the options where you can select Questionnaire to begin. At the top of your page, you'll notice that all your active projects are found here. You can edit existing projects by clicking on the Edit button to the right-hand side. Here, you can make any changes that you feel are necessary. Be sure at the bottom of the page to select Edit Project to save any changes that you make. To add a new project, scroll to the bottom of your existing project list and you'll find a green Add a Project button. This brings you to the Add Project page. Firstly, give your project a name. For this demonstration, we'll use CapDebt. In the Help text box, you will want to add all the information that you would like your team to have at their fingertips. As much as you can, try to include all the details, including the where, when, and what the next steps are for the referral process. Try not to fall into the trap of assuming the person reading it knows these details already. I have pre-prepared here some information about CapDebt Help. You can use this little tool in the corner here to drag and increase the size of the box to help you see all the information if that's helpful. Now, you can leave your project information here. It will work perfectly fine, but if you'd like to go one step further and format your virtual flyer to make it visually more striking and to make it more interactive, you can do so by following these steps. At the bottom of your screen in the red text is information on how you can format your text. 2 asterisks will make your text bold. A single asterisk will make it italicized. You can create lists by using the hyphen tools. 2 hashtags will make a heading 2, which is a large heading, and heading 3 works with 3. You might be wondering, what does this look like? Let's see an example here. So as we can see, those 2 asterisks creates this bold, the single asterisk creates italicized. The listed items look like this in their bullet points. Heading 2 is the largest heading. Heading 3 is a little smaller. We'll come to the hyperlink in just a moment. Let's take a look at our help text here. We might decide that actually we think the CapDebt help could be in bold. Bear in mind that this will appear in large text at the top, and I don't want it to be repeated. However, I might like to make it stand out a little more. I might also want to emphasize the fact that our services are free. I'm going to do this by italicizing with a single asterisk here. But what I'd really like to do to help make this virtual flyer all that it can be is make this link here into a hyperlink or a live link. An example of this we can see here. This blue text here, when I click on it, automatically opens a new page with the information on that I would like to share with my guest. Let's create that hyperlink here. The easiest way to do this is to highlight using your mouse this line of text in red at the bottom here. Once we've copied it, let's paste it next to the text we're going to add in. Now, firstly, within our standard parentheses, or brackets, I'm going to take this website address and I'm simply going to pop it on top. I can do this. So I've cut that by using the right-hand tool again, and I'm going to paste it over the top. So now within these parentheses, these brackets, standard brackets, is the website that I want to link to. Now, what I think I'd like the text to say is find your local CAP debt help here. Oh. I'm going to paste that inside the square brackets. I've got an extra couple of spaces, so I'm going to just reduce that down. Now it's that simple, because now when this goes live, the CAP debt help here words will be in blue, just like this is here, and it is linked to this website here. Now, be sure to make sure that the HTTPS and the colon and strikes are included. The easiest way is to simply copy and paste this directly from your web browser. So if I were to open this one again, if I double click up here to highlight all of it, it will automatically fill in that gap for you. But we do need to make sure that's included as part of our link paste here to make sure it's live. And it really is that simple. Now, a reminder again that you don't have to format your live links or any of your text if you would rather not. The virtual flyer will work with standard text. Be sure when you finish entered or you're entering all of your information, to select Add Project at the bottom to save this information. And you will find the CAP debt has now appeared at the top of our project list, ready to be used as part of our questionnaire. To edit your existing questionnaire or to create new questions, scroll to the bottom of your project list to where you'll find questions. Now, these tips will be here permanently. They will always be here to remind you of any of these tips. So don't worry about writing them down or hanging on to them. They will always be here. Now, your questionnaire does come pre-populated, and you'll notice that it falls into certain categories. Occupation here, life skills, we've got our existing questions here. There are currently no questions under independence, but there are questions under relationships, health and well-being, finance and home, and then there's a question under other as well. Now, you can create a range of different types of questions through the questionnaire feature, but for the purposes of this video, we will divide them into two types, a single question and a two-part question. Now, as you look to create and add new questions, please do try to remember two things. Firstly, try to keep them as positively framed and phrased wherever possible. We always want to be uplifting and positive where we can, and it's far better for our self-esteem if we are asked to assess the statement, for example, I can afford clothing for myself and my family, versus I am struggling to afford clothing for myself and my family. We would like clients at the end to feel a bit positive and be able to recognize what they are achieving, as well as identifying where they're struggling. Secondly, do remember that your questions should be pointing towards a referral point. We don't want to be asking questions simply for the fun of asking a question. So let's get started. For the purpose of this, I'm going to add some questions under the independent section, purely because there are no questions there at the moment. So we'll start by creating some single questions. To add a question, go to your desired section and click on the green Add a Question box. This is our standard Add Question template. We're going to jump down quickly for a moment to the question type, which is part 2. Our question will go in this first box, but we'll come back to that in just a moment with examples. Our question types are as follows. We have free text, which is a shorter answer. and also free text, which is a longer answer. Now, these are generally best for feedback, although you can still use them to point towards a project. Yes or no allows your client to answer in the affirmative or the negative. And similarly, agree or to disagree does what it says on the tin. Your client can either agree or disagree. Checkboxes. This allows your client to select more than one answer if they wish. This is particularly useful when you have a range of options that might apply. For example, if you were to ask the question around clothing, and you might want to list the types or categories of people in a household, for example, a child under 3 months, child under 5, school uniform, teenage, adult male, adult woman, etc. This is a useful tool, so multiples can be selected. And then finally, we have options. This is a restricted selection, which allows guests to select one answer. For example, if we were to ask the question or to put forward the statement, I feel in control of my finances, we could allow them to choose from 4 options, such as this sounds a lot like me, a bit like me, rarely like me, or not like me. They'd only be able to answer one. Underneath here, we have our area that this question will appear. As I mentioned, I've popped this one into independence, so we have no questions yet. But if for any reason partway through or during an editing process you felt that this question was best popped in a different category, you can do that here. But again, for the purpose of this video, I shall leave it in independence. The question page number gives you an opportunity to split your questions across multiple pages. We would recommend that you use this feature if you have more than 10 questions on a page. However, you are not required to do that. You can actually have as many questions on a page as you would like. Question order allows you to decide which order you want your questions to appear on in the page. If you leave this blank, it will automatically fill in this for you. Similarly, if you leave the page number blank, they will always appear on the first page. Based on which question type you select, the second half of this page will look a little different. Now, the free text, if I select that up here, simply asks you, where should this feedback point you to? So that's very straightforward, but I will show you through some examples of the other options. If we were to select yes or no, you can see at the bottom that the page is automatically changed. This happens automatically. You don't need to refresh the page. Now, this format here actually looks the same as to whether it's yes or no, or agree or disagree. Both question types will give you this template to complete. Now, first, we should start with a question. And in this moment, we shall ask the question. I'm going to repeat some questions already on your support plan for ease. Are you aware of the support your GP can offer you? I'm going to pop this down, page number 1, and question order number 1. Now, support plan area is our first section to fill in. This is the project you will signpost to, depending on the answer your client has given. Now, if the answer here is yes, I am aware of the support my GP can offer me, we've no need to signpost, so we can leave this section blank. However, if they answer no, we'll want to connect them with the support. You can use this drop-down menu here to search through your existing projects, all of your current active projects, to find the one that is most appropriate to now connect them with. In this instance, it will be the local GP. The support plan text box here is the text that appears in the support plan that explains why this project has been selected. In this instance, we're going to use the phrase, I am not aware of the support my GP can offer me. So now when this local GP project appears in the support plan, if the client asks why, we can say it's because you mentioned that you were not aware of the support your GP can offer you. Now we're going to come back to sub-questions. So in this instance, we're going to leave this blank, but we will come back and look at that properly a little later. We're going to complete this process by adding the question. There we go. And if we scroll down, back down to independence, that question is now in place and ready. If I needed to edit it, I can go to the edit button to the right, or I can use the delete button if I wanted to delete it. Let's create another type of question. This one, as we can see here, it states that it's yes or no, but the format for this is the same whether it's yes or no, or agree or disagree. Let's take a look at checkboxes and options. First, let's change our question type to checkboxes. We select this drop-down menu and we can click on checkboxes. You'll notice that the first half of this page hasn't changed. However, there is a difference in the bottom. It's worth remembering that the format for your checkboxes and options, again, is the same, just as your yes, no, and agree, disagree are the same template. Let's add our question to start with. Is there an immigration situation you would like help with? Again, I could change the area that this appears in if I wanted to. I'm going to keep it on page number 1. However, I know there's already a question in place, so I'm going to call this question 2. To get started, we'll add a new row. This has brought up an option name, a support plan area, support plan text, and a sub-question. As before, we're not going to look at sub-questions in this section of the video. We will look at them later. Our first option given to our client will be that I would like help claiming asylum or with an ongoing claim. I'm going to add in all of our options to start with, and then we'll go through the other elements. Using the green plus at the bottom, I have created another option box for us. Our option 2, I would like help applying for citizenship or with an ongoing application. I'll add in our third option here, which will be, I would like help applying for a visa or with an ongoing application. And finally, we have the option, none of the above. So these are our 4 options. Bear in mind that this is a checkbox, which means that they can select all 4 if they want to, if they would like to. We're going to select our project that this will point towards using this drop-down menu here. In this instance, migrant help. We're going to do the same process for the others. You could work along if you like, row by row. I just tend to work in this way, but you could do 1 row at a time if you'd prefer. I would like help applying for citizenship. I believe that we're going to put citizens advice. I would like help applying for a visa. Again, that'll be citizens advice using this drop-down menu. And none of the above. Now, as none of the above means they do not need this help, we're going to leave this blank with these 2 little lines that are already populated. And now we'll look at the support plan text. Remember, this is the information that will appear in the support plan to show why migrant help in this instance was listed as a potential support for them. So here we have, I'll just copy and paste the text, say, I would like some help in my asylum claim. Similarly, I would like some help applying for citizenship. I'll pop that in there. And I would like help applying for a visa. Will appear here in this last box here. There is no support plan text here because it will not point in to any project. So this is just the option to say that they didn't need it. Again, we're not looking at sub-questions in this instance, but we will move on to those in a moment. You can add as many rows as you like, but remember that you do want to make sure you're not overwhelming your guest with too many options, and they should all be useful and point towards some form of support, ideally, unless it is not applicable to them. Remember to save your edits by clicking Add Question at the bottom of your page. And if we scroll back down to Independence, our question has appeared here. It gives us a summary of what kind of question we've created, and we can see our order taking shape here. Once again, I can go in and edit or delete using these buttons to the side. Let's look at creating a question which has options, which means that our client can only select one answer. Our question in this instance, we shall have, I find it easy to budget my money from week to week. I'm going to use this drop-down menu to select options. We're keeping it in Independence, but again, this is probably one I'd move to Finance and Home. Our question page number, we're still on page 1. Again, we could leave this blank and it would automatically assume there's one page if you like. And we know this is going to be question number 3. You'll notice that this looks almost identical to the checkboxes template, and that's because they are in essence the same. The big difference, however, is to remember that options means your guest can only select one answer. So as before, we're going to add a new row, and this is going to be a scale answer. You could use any options you like. Again, this is just a scale that we use when we put a statement like, I find it easy to budget my money. So our option first is going to be that this sounds a lot like me. Our second option will be, this sounds a bit like me. Our third option will be that this is rarely like me. And our last option will be that this is not like me. And again, we'll work horizontally this time for those that works best for. And for our first option is, bear in mind our statement is that I find it easy, should go back to the top, I find it easy to budget my money from week to week. If that sounds a lot like me, I don't have anywhere that I need to signpost them to. Therefore, I don't need to edit this, and I don't need to worry about the support plan text. I find it easy to budget my money from week to week. I would say we can point them then towards cap money, because that's always helpful. And our support text could be, I sometimes find it difficult. Oh dear, difficult to budget my money from week to week. Rarely like me, again, I want to point towards cap money. And I'll just do this a little swifter this time. I often find it difficult to budget my money from week to week. And lastly, we're going to want this, that it definitely doesn't, if it doesn't sound like me, then I definitely want to be pointed towards cap money. And I'll pop it here. I regularly find it difficult to budget my money from week to week. Now, remember that this support plan text means that then when cap money appears in their support plan, they'll have a reason as to why it's appeared. Once again, we are not looking at sub-questions. That will be the next section. So we're going to leave this section as is for now. We're going to add our question here by clicking the Add Question button at the bottom. And if we go back down to Independence again, here we are. You'll see our 3 questions are there, ready to go. Now, let's take a look at creating sub-questions. Creating sub-questions is very similar to creating questions, as we've just seen, but there are 2 things to bear in mind. Each question can only have one sub-question. You can't create a run of sub-questions or have 3 questions running on off the same route. Also, you will need to create your sub-question before you create the root question, or you'll need to create part 2 so that when you create part 1 of your question, you have the part 2 ready to point to. Just makes the process a little smoother. So let's start by adding part 2 of our connected question. To help you understand as I create this, I will tell you the 2 questions that I'm looking to ask. The root question is what is your occupation status? And based on the answer that they give from the options available, this will, where appropriate, point to the sub-question, would you value some help in finding a job? So in order to have part 2 ready for me to part 1 to be linked to, I'm going to create part 2 first. I'm going to add a question here, and that will be part 2, which is, would you value some assistance in finding a job? The answer to this will be a yes or a no. Again, I will probably put this under occupation, but for the purpose of this, we'll leave it in independence. And I'm going to leave these sections blank so you can see how the system automatically populates for them. And now this is nice and straightforward. If they say yes, they would like some support, just as we did before, we're going to point straight to CAP Job Club, and we're going to have our support plan text as I would like some help finding a job. Nice and straightforward. Now this is our sub question, so we don't need to worry about this part. All will become clear in a moment. And because if they say no, I don't want any help, then we don't need to point them anywhere. I'm going to add question as we have done before. Takes us back to the questionnaire homepage. Let's get back down to that independence section. There we are. You can see that this has automatically been populated now. And now let's turn this into, let's link this with a root question, turn it into a sub question. So our question here is going to be, what is your occupation status? We want to give them the options to select one. And again, we'll leave this blank so you can see how it orders. We're going to add a new row. And here we have our options available. We have employed, so happily employed, not looking for a job. We have employed but looking. And then we have our not in work and looking at the moment. And for the purpose of this, we shall limit it at not in work but not looking. So we have 4 different options here. Now, if they were to say employed, they're not looking they're not looking because they have the option to say they're looking. We don't need to point anywhere. However, employed but looking, we can use this section to scroll down to find our sub question. If you hover over the line, you will find, because you can't quite read the full text, I appreciate, in the box, but if you hover over the text, you will be able to see the full one here. Now, because this is a duplicated question, you may have noticed that it did come up a little earlier, but this is the one I've just created. You won't be duplicating sub questions in this way, so it shouldn't come up as a problem. But I'm going to click on this here, and it's now gone blue. This means I have now selected it. Similarly, for not in work and looking at the moment, if I scroll, now I know it's at the bottom for this one, so I can go back to the bottom, hover again. Would you value some assistance in finding a job? Yes, I would. Once you've moved on to the next box, this stays grey, but that indicates you've selected it. As you can see, these are all white. And similarly, not in work but not looking, we don't need to ask them the follow-up question, so that will stay white. So even if I click away from this, they stay grey to indicate that they are in action. So we're going to save this question by clicking Add Question at the bottom here. So now to see our sub-question and root question together, if I scroll down, you can see that this little arrow here, the 2 arrows here, indicates to me it's a sub-question. You can see another example just a little further down the page under relationship. And the order here tells me that 4 to 5 are linked, so I automatically know. Again, it tells me what type of questions I've created, and if I want to edit at any point, I can do so by hitting the edit button here, which takes me back here. Remember, as ever, any changes you make, do make sure you click that edit button at the bottom. You can also delete questions by selecting the delete button here. This has been your step-by-step guide on how to create and edit projects and questions as part of your questionnaire. You can watch it as many times as you like, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll be more than happy to help. Thank you very much.